It's Ash from Super Videos, back for another video for The Walking Dead. This is going to be my trailer breakdown for Season 1 of Tales of the Walking Dead. There's actually a few very interesting details in this trailer that I do want to point out. Obviously, the biggest one and the most anticipated one, I think, is the episode with Alpha, which is obviously going to be a flashback episode. But we also have episodes that appear to take place in Atlanta during the early days of the outbreak, and there's even mentions of the CDC in the trailer, which is very interesting. And there's an introduction of a new character, a scientist or doctor that may become a very important character in the Walking Dead universe. So stay tuned, we'll be right back to break it all down. Alright, as always, before we dive into it, smash the like button, subscribe to join our community, and press the bell to be notified when I upload on the channel. With that said, let's dive right into it. First, we have this shot of Alpha, played by Samantha Morton. Obviously, she still has her hair, so this is before she went into the bunkers with her husband and daughter Lydia. In the voiceover, Alpha says, "I'm not sure if I meant to kill him. Glad I did." So obviously, even though the flashback is from before she killed her husband, most likely the voiceover is from after, because she's talking about killing her husband. So she's saying she didn't mean to kill her husband, but she's glad that she did because she thought she's protecting Lydia, her daughter. Obviously, if we look at the flashback, which was this exact scene, Alpha killing her husband, we can see that it's not quite the way that she's making it out to be. Like, she's not all innocent, and she wasn't doing it to protect her daughter. She did it because she's a psychopath, obviously. Then we have this interesting shot of the character named Joe, played by Terry Crews. He's just lifting weights. Obviously, this could be either from before the outbreak, before the fall of society, or it could be afterwards. We will hear later on the character that Joe plays is going to be a character that has probably spent a lot of time by himself. So it's possible that this is him after the outbreak, maybe years down the line, and he's just lifting weights because he has nothing better to do. It's kind of like the same mentality as someone who goes to prison has. They have nothing better to do but to keep themselves in shape because their survival depends on it. You know what I mean? So I think it's a similar situation with what we're seeing with the character of Joe here. Next, we have this shot of another character named Amy, played by Poppy Lou. Now, we don't exactly know what's going on here and, what this is all about, but obviously, she's in the middle of a field of some sort with a forest nearby. She's covered in what appears to be a little bit of blood, so maybe she was killing walkers. And then we have this shot of 6 main characters from Tales of the Walking Dead, and the title card says 6 New Tales. So 6 different characters, 6 different stories. One of these characters is obviously Samantha Morton's Alpha. The other is Terry Crews' character Joe. We have other characters. The character of Blair on the top left, played by Parker Posey. The character on the top right, Dr. Everett, played by Anthony Edwards. On the bottom left, we have the character of Idalia, played by Daniel Pineda. And on the bottom right, we have the character of Devin, played by Jesse Usher. Now, we will learn a little bit more about who their characters are and what their stories could be all about in just a little bit. But the first shot after that is a shot of Devin himself again. He's looking out the window. He's probably hiding there from either survivors that are trying to get him or from walkers. And then we have this shot of another character named Eric, played by Danny Ramirez. It looks like he's looking through a crack in the fence. Not much to say about this one. And then we have this interesting shot of a walker, and in the title card it says "From the Walking Dead Universe." And then we have this shot of Dr. Everett. He has some sort of a tool or mechanical equipment on his back. Not sure what he's using that for. Maybe some sort of a science experiment. And then we have this interesting shot of what I think is a younger Lydia looking at someone. I think this is going to connect to something that's going to come up later on. I think she's actually looking at her neighbor, talking to her neighbor. I don't think she's with Alpha here. But in the voiceover, Alpha continues to say, we do what we think is right, even if it hurts the ones we love. So I think that's just part of her justifying why she killed her husband. And then we have this shot of character of Blair again. She looks shocked to see something. Maybe this is early on in the outbreak and they're reacting to one of the first walkers that they see. We have another character by her side who appears to be a police officer because of the badge. So that's extremely interesting. And then we have this shot of the character of Evie, played by Olivia Munn, with some sort of a scissor in hand. Now we will see the continuation of this scene later on. But the next shot we have is this shot of the character of Joe saying, people thought I was nuts. No one believed this could happen. And this is obviously referring to the outbreak, the fall of society, the zombies, the virus, and all of that. So it seems like Joel's character is one of those characters that saw the apocalypse coming, but no one believed him. So it seems like he's that type of character. The next shot we have is this shot of a survivor, I think, being trapped in some sort of a netting. Now, this looks like it might be Terry Crews's character, but I could be wrong about that. But then we have this shot that I was talking about, Olivia Munn's character called Evie, with the scissor in hand coming in. I think she's actually looking at Joe here, and the scissors are there to cut him loose, but I could be wrong. But in the voiceover, Joe says, no one ever thinks bad things will happen. So that just goes back to, him knowing or anticipating that the apocalypse is coming, that something bad is coming, but no one believed him. And, usually no one thinks that bad things will happen until they do. Obviously, we know that from first-hand experience, having lived through 2020 onwards, so it kind of hits close to home in a way. And then we have this interesting shot of the character of Blair again. Now, I don't know what her occupation is exactly, but in this particular scene, she says it's the media, it's hype. So this connects obviously directly to what the character of Joe was talking about, how he saw this coming, but no one believed him. So Blair's character is obviously one of those characters that didn't believe people like Joe. And they thought that it was just hype. It was just the media. Now, it's interesting because that follows up with her getting bit in the neck. So it's like karma in a way. But this is a pretty big thing to give away. It was in the very first teaser that they released, but obviously we know that the character of Blair is gonna die at some point. Now, this won't necessarily be a big deal if they show that all of the characters die anyway at the end. So it's like, yeah, all of them are gonna die. But then in that case, it seems like there's no point to these episodes. You know what I mean? So I'm thinking that it's highly likely that some of these characters will live on until later on, and they might re-enter the story in one of the spin-offs that we're going to see later on, or even in the last 8 episodes of the original show. So I think this is a pretty big spoiler to put in a trailer for the first season of a show. But anyway, we do see 2 walkers here. Pay attention to these walkers. They will come back around. One of them is wearing a green shirt. The next shot we have is a shot of another character named Gina, played by Jillian Bell. She's actually friends with Blair's character. We will see that in a little bit. But we see her also getting bit in the face by a walker. So this is another spoiler, in my opinion, about what we are going to see. So we know that their characters are not going to live on. And what we're also going to see is that their characters are the ones that are in Atlanta, based on what we see. They might not be the only ones in the city in Tales of the Walking Dead, but they're the ones that we see in the trailer. So the fact that both of them die is a pretty big spoiler to put in the trailer, in my opinion. But the next shot we have is actually some roadblocks in the city with walkers approaching. It's like a horde, obviously. And in the distance, we do see skyscrapers. And obviously, this is Atlanta. I'll tell you how I know that in just a sec. But the next shot we have is this shot of Blair's character again. She says the CDC is freaking next door. If anything was really wrong, they'll be all over it. So this is obviously revealing a few things, that they're right next door to CDC, so they're most likely in Atlanta, and that they don't believe that anything is going to happen because the CDC hasn't said anything. So those are the reveals here. And obviously we do see the receptionist, who's the character of Gina. Now, in the background, we do see Circle of Trust, but everything else is blurry. So it looks like they're in a company called Circle of Trust, but we don't exactly know what that company is exactly. The next shot we have is more shot of that roadblock that we saw with the horde of walkers, and then this shot of the character of Amy again running through these walkers, obviously looking back, meaning that she's being followed by someone. Now, why are the walkers not getting to her? That's interesting. I mean, you would think that they'll be attracted to her, right? So I found this extremely interesting. But then we have this shot of Gina, the receptionist, and then we have these two walkers again, the same one that bits Blair that we saw earlier, and then this shot of just random walkers, one with a pole in its chest, and then another one of the character of Amy again fighting off this walker, and then this aerial shot of what I think are deer running. And then in the voiceover, Dr. Everett says, "I'm studying the Homo mordus." Not sure what that is, but I'm assuming that it's the walkers, or what they refer to as the walkers. Everything from their behavior, psychology, to migration plans. Now, this is extremely interesting because it definitely lines up with what we saw in World Beyond, with what Dr. Leo Bennett was studying. And it also sort of matches up or lines up with the studies that Dr. Edwin Jenner from the CDC was doing that we saw in season 1 of The Walking Dead. And obviously what he was researching later on, years down the line, about the walkers and new types of walkers. And that's the scene that we saw in the after credits of The Walking Dead World Beyond series finale. But this is another shot of Dr. Everett. And then we have this pretty interesting shot of a walker with a hole in its chest. Very cool. And then we have this shot of Amy looking at these pictures of walkers. And obviously, this reveals to us that the character of Amy is gonna run into Dr. Everett. In this scene, Amy says, "What psychology? They don't do anything other than walk around and try to kill us." So this is obviously a direct response to what Dr. Everett said. Now, one thing that I do want to mention is maybe Amy gets saved by Dr. Everett. Then we have this shot of a walker and I think Dr. Everett doing something to the walker. This might be part of the equipment that he had on his back. It looks like maybe he takes the walkers' heads to study them. We will see that in a bit. But then we have this shot of Dr. Everett again talking, most likely to Amy. And then we have this shot of a basket of walker heads. This is definitely reminiscent of something that we saw in Fear the Walking Dead with Bounty Hunter that was keeping these heads of walkers as trophies. But in this case, I think it's just being used for studies. So Dr. Everett is collecting them to study them. And then we have this shot of Dr. Everett opening some sort of a chest, most likely to that chest that had all of the walker heads in it. And then we have this shot of Gina and Blair, and they're actually looking down from the bridge at the roadblock and the horde of walkers that are coming in. So this reveals that they are obviously in Atlanta, which definitely matches up with what Blair was saying earlier about the CDC being next door. But look at the skyscrapers in the background. They match up with the skyscrapers that we saw in the promo poster for The Walking Dead Season 1, where it was Rick on a horse. We can see that more clearly here. So this is definitely confirming that this is in fact Atlanta. The next shot we have is this shot of what appears to be Lydia as a young child with a walker right behind her, and then another shot of a walker approaching, most likely the same one, and then this shot of Amy talking to Dr. Everett. She says, "There, study done." So this goes back to what she said about there not being a psychology behind the walkers and they're just there to kill you. And then we have this shot of the character of Idalia again. It looks like someone is choking her. And then this shot of walkers trying to get to someone, pulling their feet down. And then this shot of the character of Devin fighting off this walker. And then this shot of another character here. And then we have this shot of a walker. Pretty creepy shot of them. Looks like a scene directly from The Ring. And then we have this shot of Terry Crews's character killing these walkers. I'm absolutely excited to see Terry Crews in action, killing walkers and everything. So that's cool. We have this shot of Alpha. She's naked, which is kind of odd, but she's looking at someone. This is very, very interesting. And then we have this shot of Devin again with blood on his face. This shot of Dr. Everett again, looking at an X on a tree. He's most likely tracking the walkers and studying their migration plans and stuff. And then we have this shot of the character of Joe again. He's going into some sort of a basement or bunker, which is interesting. And then we have this shot of the character of Brooke, played by Lauren Glazier. Now, we did see her earlier on, but we didn't see her face. She's actually going to play Alpha and Lydia's neighbor. She was the one that Lydia was talking to in that earlier scene that we saw. And then we have this other shot. I don't know who this is. I don't think this is any of the characters we've talked about, but there's no name for this character either. But it looks like they're in some sort of a basement. And then we have this interesting shot of a group of people taking Devin hostage. Now, there's torches in the background and stuff, so this might be a cult of some sort. But then we have this shot of other characters who are not named. And then we have this shot of what appears to be a walker or someone bit. Now, we don't see their face, but very interesting. And then we have this shot of just random portraits or sketches of random people who I don't recognize. And then another one of the same group that we saw that was part of the cult, most likely. And then this shot of Devin again in bed. She says, I'm starting to think if you're gonna choose yourself over others, you should make sure that your life is worth saving. Now, this definitely does line up with something you would say to a cult, so maybe that's related. And then we have more shots of that cult. This one of someone saying mauvais. I hope I pronounced that right because it's a French word that means bad. This obviously connects to what this scene might be all about because they have captured Devin. If they're a cult, they might think that Devin is bad, so they're trying to kill him or something. But the fact that they're speaking French is interesting. I don't think there's any connection between this and what we're gonna see in the Daryl spinoff, or even what was there at the end of The Walking Dead World Beyond with the fast walkers reveal, but I could be wrong. And then we have this shot of the same cult taking Devin somewhere, and then this one of someone saying monster in English, and then this shot of them taking him away to burn him or something, because we do see the fire in the background. But then we have this shot of the character of Joe again saying, I'm still kicking, and most everyone else isn't. So this goes back to what I was saying earlier about him knowing that this was coming, but no one believed him. So it's like he thinks it's karma that he's, alive and everyone else isn't. It's because no one believed him. If they believed him, they might still be here with him. And then we have this shot of Olivia Munn's character, Evie, responding to Joe, saying, happy story, Mr. Sunshine. You just hold up with your protein powder. So a comic relief scene, in my opinion. Pretty cool. We have this shot of a motorcycle riding away, and I think that's probably Evie, and this is Joe, and someone just stole their bike or something. And then we have this shot of Gina and Blair. Gina says, we're not going to be friends. Not sure what to make of that. And then we have this shot of the two of them in a weird position. I don't know if they're catfighting or what they're doing, but they're on the ground. And then we have this shot of Alpha looking in a mirror. And then this shot of someone. And then we have this shot of the character of Idalia again. She says, I'm hearing whispers. Now, this could mean two things. One is she's hearing the whispers of the walkers, or she's hearing whispers, like the whispers. So this could connect to Alpha's story, maybe not. There's a third way. She's just hearing whispers, like she's going crazy or something. And then we have this shot of a walker approaching, and then this shot of a walker, and then this shot of the character of Idalia again, looking at the walker that was just approaching, and then this shot of another person in the woods, and then this shot of three walkers in the woods, and then this shot of Alpha and Lydia again covered in blood. This is probably the start of their becoming a whisper story. And then we have this shot of Brooke talking to Alpha. So this is obviously what I used to predict or know, that Brooke is Alpha's neighbor. But she says, what sort of terrible thing would frighten a little girl that she hides from her own mother? So like I said, maybe Alpha does something that scares Lydia. She runs to the neighbor and complains and, asks her to confront Alpha, something like that. That's the vibe I'm getting. And then we have another shot with 6 characters again, same characters that we've seen earlier, so I'm not going to talk about it much, but it says in the title card 6 different stories. Now the only shot here that really jumps out at you is the shot of the character of Evie with a goat. Not sure what to make of that. We do see that in the trailer as well. Another trailer, not this one, with Joe carrying this goat. So not sure what that's all about, but I'm definitely intrigued. And then we have Amy again with walkers trying to get to her. We have this shot of Gina and Blair again. And then a title card that says One Dead World with a walker in the background. And then this shot of Alpha screaming, Lydia, Lydia, baby. So maybe she goes missing and Alpha needs to find her to protect her. Maybe that connects to the shot that we saw with a walker approaching Lydia. And then we have this shot of Evie's character, this walker falling down. Something is attached to their head. So maybe this is part of the story where Dr. Everett does something to these walkers, puts something on their head, pushes them down the hill to chop off their head so that he could take their head or something. I could be totally wrong or off about this. And then we have this shot of what appears to be Joe's character with his hands tied, running away. It looks like he's in the same place that we saw earlier where he was going down the stairs like he was going into some sort of a bunker or basement. We have this shot of Evie's character killing walkers, and then this shot of Amy's character killing walkers, and then this shot of Devin and that cult. Devin says, we decide who we are, you can decide. Not too much to this one, he's just pleading for his life pretty much. And then this interesting shot of someone, I think this is Eric's character that we talked about earlier, but he's just naked and he's running. Not sure what to make of this. Maybe this is also connected to the scene with Alpha. That's the only thing I can think of, because Alpha was also naked in that shot that we saw. But then we have this shot of someone punching someone. Not too much to make of this one. And then someone jumping off boat into a body of water. This disgusting shot of a walker. And then this shot of Idalia's character again with smoke in the background. And then this shot of Devin's character trying to fight off someone. And then Gina screaming here. And then an explosion going off. But that's pretty much it. That's the trailer. That's pretty much everything I wanted to talk about. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, smash the like button, subscribe to join our community, and press the bell to be notified when I upload on the channel. That's it for this video. See you next time for another super video.